With America returning to work, we keep hearing the phrase, the new normal, right? Well, what does the new normal mean? And what can we do about it in our businesses? With so many things to talk about, COVID-19, Black Lives Matter, and election 2020, what you say or do in business can either make or break you in 2020. Find out what to do and what not to do in your business. Coming up next. Today we're lucky enough to have a great guest with us who works with businesses, big and small, big brands, little brands, name brands, every brand under the sun. We wanted to talk about the new normal when it comes to opening your business. So we've brought the man, the myth, the legend, Marine Corps veteran, and serial entrepreneur, George the Lighthouse Bryant, to come on our show again. We're welcoming him back onto our show to talk about opening your business and what it means. We're in a whole new environment. What we thought at the beginning of this pandemic was we were only going to be talking about COVID-19. But in the last 3 weeks, with everything going on in our country, with Black Lives Matter and administration that's all over the place, we need to know how to take your business to the next level, because even what you're putting on social can either make or break your business. So we've welcoming George to the show to kind of tell us how we can get around these things. So let's, without further ado, bring on my good friend, George Bryant. Hey, George, welcome to the show today, bud.
Thank you for having me. I missed our furlough. I'm back. I'm ready to be here.
Right? I know it's been forever since you were last on the show. I mean,
I know, everybody. I'm sorry. I was running through my own business issues and trying to keep them alive during all of this craziness as well. And just happy to be back.
Right. So we're here. It's Military Monday. So that doesn't mean we're going to talk military stuff, because we don't. That just means you happen to be a veteran and you own a business. So it just fits in. As always, if you're watching this show, make sure you push that subscribe button. So let's jump into this. So George, you're just talking about having to take over and, work your own business. A lot of people are talking about getting back to normal or the new normal. A lot of businesses are struggling with this because they really don't know the kind of environment they're going through right now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, let's jump into that. Like, what advice are you giving? You have a lot of different kinds of, you got big clients and you got little clients. They're all going to struggle with this because, again, we're all still shooting on the same hoop.
Yep.
It's a whole new world. What are you advising folks? Like, how do you even process through the next 18 months to 24 months? Because a lot of stuff's not doing anything until 2021 and late 2021. So what's your advice to these folks?
Yeah, it's been interesting for sure. And quite frankly and openly, my break was the fact that I own 9 companies and 2 of them might not be here in a couple of months. And I'm okay with that. But when you go from 70 grand a day to 600 a day, it's a lot of nuance that comes in there. And a lot of it comes from, the uncertainty that's in the world. And so when I look at it, the one thing that I keep telling everybody is that, when this started, when the craziness started, everyone's like, what do we do? And we're like, go deeper, be more present, be more vocal, and communicate openly, right? And for the last 4 months, we have created a new relationship paradigm between customer and business. And now I'm watching the world open back up, quote unquote, open back up, and businesses open back up. And what I'm watching is this dire mistake of I'm going to go back to what it was like 4 months ago. No. That's like committing to marry somebody, showing up every day for 3 months, and then disappearing and wondering why a year later you're divorced. It's not going to work. So what has happened in the last 4 months as humans were really hit with something we weren't prepared for. Nobody's ever really been through that in our lifetime. We found safety and security in this new normal. Over communication, over consumption, but really being deep with people when it comes to business and marketing. And so now as the world is opening back up, what's going to happen is people are going to have less time to consume, right? They're going to go to the gym or they're going to go to work, but they're going to expect that same level of depth and relationship with companies and with brands and with marketing. And so if you went from posting, once a day to twice a day, you can't just go back to posting once a day, or else you're breaking a contract that you worked with people. And so as they go out, where everybody's doing is they're reestablishing, like, I can go to the gym again, or I can go on this commute again. I can do that. But when they come home and they're back into consumption mode or shopping mode, they're still not like, oh, everything's great. We're going to be dealing with this for 12 months, 18 months, 24 months. And we changed human psychology when it comes to social media, marketing, and business. And there are companies that you and I have talked about before that are never coming back. They are permanently gone because of their inability to go deep, pivot, and communicate. So for me, looking at it and keeping the focus of depth, not width. And when we think about it, the reason I recommend that, I've recommended it forever, but before, nobody really understood, like, I'll get more customers, I'll get more customers. The loyalty cycle has changed as well, because the people that are in a relationship with you and have learned to trust you and go deep with you are going to stay a lot longer than they ever would have, and it's going to maintain and continue. And if we pull back, if we try to, not communicate effectively or not communicate as much, what's going to happen is we're going to push those relationships away, and we're going to be left with nobody new to come in because they already have established relationships everywhere else, and nobody that's in staying because we changed the context of the relationship. So when we think about marketing, business marketing, messaging in general, we don't want to be running around using the words safety, security, certainty, and all these buzzwords like everybody else. What we want to be doing is creating a container of that feeling and understanding that from this point forward, the lens of, I don't want to call it skepticism, but really like fear is going to be there. Like, oh, do I really need this? Is this something I need in my life? Can I justify that expense? Is going to take a lot longer. Buying cycles are going to take a lot longer. Consumption cycles are going to take a lot longer. Conversions of, like, from the first time somebody sees us to when they buy their product might be double or triple. And so it is imperative that as a business and a company that we understand that they're not leaving us, or they're not converting, or they don't not want what we have. What they want is a longer decision tree to make sure that the decision that they're going to make is aligned to where they want to go and is supportive of their life, because we have an entire world, 30 million people still unemployed, not having jobs, and in a couple of weeks and months that fallout's coming. And when you get into the root of this psychologically, if somebody's basic needs, water, safety, shelter, and security are not met, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, they can't do anything else. And so our job as businesses, as companies, is to hold a vision and hold a space that they can stay in during that cycle until they're ready to make a decision. And even if they don't, that they have a space within our company or within our world where they can communicate, and we can communicate and add as much value and support as possible, agnostic of that credit card purchase. And so that is the nutshell of what I've been talking about for 2 months on every single phone call.
And it's good because I think a lot of people have this belief that it's all going to go back to normal and everything's fine. And what we're seeing over the last 2 weeks is a huge spike in illness. Two, people rebelling about wearing masks, but now you're seeing states like California, Oregon recently just did it. I mean, there's some states that are stubborn about it, but they're like, dude, wear a mask. Like it's pretty serious. Wear a mask. We're trying to finish this thing. We happen to be the only country that seems to not be able to recover from this. And it's I don't know what it is, but it's affecting businesses because you see businesses taking that risk, telling people, hey, you got to wear a mask when you come in if you're a brick and mortar, and then businesses trying to align. So let me ask you this. One of the big things that I'm hearing from people is even during this pandemic, there's never been a bigger need to fire clients, which is an interesting angle when you think about it. You need the money, but you're to the point where even during a good economy, you're like, okay, I don't mind firing a client or two. We've all been there. We've all done it. It's like, you're a headache. I don't want to deal with you. But now money's tight. You need to grow your business. You still should be getting rid of your problem children. They're always going to be there. So how do you deal with this? Because a lot of people don't, I don't know why they don't understand it, but it's like, dude, there's COVID-19. There's riots everywhere. There's protests everywhere. I'm sorry. Sometimes your business isn't like you're going to have to align to what's going on in the world. And you see businesses fight. Perfect thing was that blackout that happened a couple weeks ago on Instagram. Businesses actually came out against it, which I was kind of like, That's a clever move. That's risky. Let's see how that one plays out there. I felt like I was in dodgeball, right? It's a
Hmm.
bold move, Cotton. Bold move.
Hmm.
Bold to come out against it. So, what are you telling your folks when this current environment? Because this is new to all of us, right? This is
No, yeah.
like we have to be related to what's going on in the world. So, what are you doing when it comes to folks going, okay, how do I market this? How do we talk about it? It's an interesting topic because a lot of us are like, I mean, for us, we personally, if we're going to talk about it, we support Black Lives Matter, and that's just where we're putting
Totally.
our cards, and we believe in it, and that's what we're doing. And if you don't want to do business with us because you don't believe in it, and you're going to tell me all lives matter, and I'm going to tell you, well, on 9/11, nobody said all buildings mattered, so that's just dumb. Like, stop telling
Mhm.
me all lives matter. You look like, okay, you just sound stupid when you say it. But a lot of businesses are coming out, and I don't know if it's a political movement. What are you advising? What would you advise a small business owner or any business owner when they're looking here and their marketing team's like, we're just not going to say anything? I
Yeah.
think you have to say something.
He
So,
gotta say he gotta say something. He gotta
yeah,
say something.
got to
You
pick a
know,
side.
one of the things that I say all the time is leaders listen, right? Leaders listen. And and the analogies go across the board, right? Like two ears, one mouth, right? And I think one of the problems that exists, one of the paradigms that's getting in the way is everybody thinks that you have to have a hard position. Like you have to be black or white or left or right. And really, what you have to be is authentic. You have to be aligned. And so for me, I've had the same thing, right? Like you and I are both on social. You and I are very, very direct and we own our story and we're ready to deal or be in what that fallout comes from. But we're also pretty mitigated and calculated. We know what we're saying. And so when we think about it, like my default, and I've had a lot of people like, hey, what do we say? What do we say? And I'm like, I don't know. Why don't you ask a question of your community? Why don't you use this as an opportunity to be like, hey, there's a whole lot of information going in the world and we stand behind this, but we want to see where you stand as a community and how we can support you there, right? Start there, right? Or you take a stance of like neutrality and openness, but this pretending, like throwing a stinky fish under your seat, ignoring it never smells better with time, right? It doesn't happen. And so I think when it is, and I think where the big problem is, I just said I think when it is twice in a row, that was weird. But when I look at it, I think the way in which people look at it, like, oh, I have to be all the way this way, or I have to be all the way that way, that level of dogmacy is what creates the problem. It needs to be approached from a place of like openness and neutrality. Like we don't live in a world where, you have to have an opinion and you're slaughtered out. Like the whole goal is to be able to be yourself, to share your opinion, but doing it in a manner that invites conversation, that opens the door for, depth and communication. And that doesn't come from like, this is what we do. This is what we don't do. And so wherever you are on the political spectrum, on the riot spectrum, on wherever it is that you fit in, you need to deliver in a manner that is authoritative and respectful, which does not come from being dogmatic and judgmental. And so keeping that in mind, opening the space for conversation, engaging with your audience, and maybe before you take a stance in an opinion, you email or you get in your group or your private communities with your customers and your people in your world and your tight circle and your employees, and you foster a leadership conversation and you throw something on the table and being like, how does this feel? Like, what is coming up for you? Like, how would you handle this? And as a leader or as an organization, you crowdsource that and then you formulate an observation. It doesn't have to be an opinion. You can make a stance and support things. And I think the one part, Eric, that I want everybody to understand is that you can't say nothing, but wherever you fit, in order to be effective, is you have to know the game that you're playing in the field that you're playing on. And you could be a football player all day, but right now it's a basketball court. And you have to understand that it's a different game. And so you have to be connected to the field of the world, the current state, the riots, the things that are going on, and make sure that you're changing the wrapping paper of your message to match the field that it's on. And in my opinion, doing it in a manner that elicits conversation that's connected, compassionate, loaded with, empathy and compassion. Because like, listen, right now, I've made a few posts I've responded to, and if any of these people on Facebook commented to me in my face what they said to me online, it would not be a good conversation, right? And I think
Yeah.
the truth is that we have to get behind this keyboard warrior thing, and we have to lead through the space of like compassion and understanding and acceptance and realizing that polarity is what creates this world, and it's okay, it's harmony, it's balance. But we as leaders, we as companies have to show up in a manner that facilitates that, not expects somebody else to do it. And yes, you're going to put a target on. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you can go to bed at night, if you're proud of what you do, if your team's aligned, if your companies are aligned, your friends are aligned, and you stand in a place of acceptance, and listen, I'm not saying like go, either way, because you can take this and have an opinion that I don't agree with, so don't go do that if you're listening to this. But in that space of acceptance of listening and hearing and being like, listen, hey community, we understand this is a hard time. We understand there's anger. We understand there's sadness. And we, just like you, don't know the best path forward. We don't know what it's going to look like tomorrow. But what we do know is that if we can communicate it and everybody can get their feelings out and we can come up with a clear, meticulous path that we can get there, that's what we're being called to lead. And yes, that means you're going to get rocks thrown. You're going to get stones thrown. And what you're doing, and we know this, entrepreneurs, leaders, military people, coaches, speakers, our job is to be a martyr. Our job is to be the person that stands with a belief and stands with structure so that everybody can vent that stuff out and then come together as community. And so for me, like, I'm going to probably give the most aggressive piece of advice I've given on this show. Be careful what you say, because if you tell me you want to be a leader, if you tell me you want to be a business owner, if you tell me you want to change the world, well, guess what? Nobody says it's roses and rainbows. You're going to get bruises, you're going to get bumps, and our job is, regardless of that, to stand in it and not lose focus on our vision and how we're going to get the people there. And so for me, that's the best way to be abreast of what's going on, communicate it, and get out there. But I will say, to close your point, saying nothing is probably suicide. Just saying nothing is probably suicide.
Yeah. And I think you have to be very careful in this environment. There's a lot of opinions. Social media, it's funny you talked about that, so let's dive down that a little bit. If you are a leader, you are a CEO, and I'm probably not the example to go by. I'm a lightning rod on social media. My Twitter is probably one, just like I think everything on Twitter. My Twitter has no business on it. You might as well stay away from my Twitter. You're not going to get any business advice from it at all. You're going to hear sports and my opinion on other things. But when it comes to social as a leader, you do have to own what you say. And that goes for the people that work with you too. I know everybody's like, it's my social, I can say what I want. Not so fast. Because I've run into people who have come on my own Facebook. Not only did their opinion not align to mine at all, and it wasn't a friendly debate, which I don't mind doing. I mean, perfect example, the Marine rapper, good friend, love Ray Lott to death. Lott, he had his music video was retweeted by the president and a whole bunch of people. He got like 3 million views. It's huge. His career is blown up because of it. It's great. I didn't agree with what he was saying. I was proud of him as a friend, but that's because we're adults, and probably also because we're brother Marines, and that's different, right? We have this natural, like, dude, love you. That's great. Like, we don't have to like each other's opinions. That's your opinion is not my opinion. We're different. We don't all need to go quote Gary Vee 24 hours a day. But I think you have to be careful as an employee and as a leader, almost to go tell your folks, be careful what you write, because at the end of the day, where are people looking? Perfect example. The woman, was it 2 weeks ago? She was correcting the guy who had written on his own property, Black Lives Matter. And what did she sit there and do? She came over and she was like, I have people that live here and you shouldn't do that. That video went viral. It happened a week ago Friday. That video went viral to the point she took down all of her social media, was taken down. Her company was taken down. 15,000 Yelp reviews, all negative. Her Facebook got shut down because of all the negative reviews. She ended up apologizing within 72 hours of that video going out. But her business is done because you've got to remember, you're going to open your mouth and go against the popular. You better own it and be prepared for the consequences that come with it, because a fake apology is not going to save your business in this day and age, because people are speaking up for the first time ever. And they're like, we're going to support who we support. And we started seeing it. And I know when you've been on the show before, we've talked about these big brands that took loans that shouldn't have. They're getting boycotted. And now it's like, you got to be very careful where you stand. So you almost have to go. So what are you telling folks, especially leaders? I know you talk to more leaders and employees. When it comes to social, what's your advice to what you should be posting? I mean, some of us, we own our own businesses, so we're kind of like, I'm going to write what I'm going to write. But I stand by it. I mean, when people ask me, you write what you write, how do you sleep at night? I sleep with 2 real pillows and next to a beautiful woman in a really comfortable bed with a dog at my side and a fan blowing on me. I sleep really good, like a baby. I don't feel bad about anything I post. I own 100%. And you're right, brother. These keyboard commandos, they would not say any of this stuff to you and I or to anybody. They're all like, you're like, really, dude?
Yeah,
Really?
it's like social media gives them permission to whip out the Urban Dictionary and use slang words they've never used before. And I'm like, hey, like, it doesn't hurt me. Like, you're projecting, and I love you, and I respond in kind, right? And
Yeah.
so for me, I think, Eric, but you nailed a part of it. Like, you sleep at night, and the
Yeah.
reason you sleep at night is because you are crystal clear and your ducks are in a row on your beliefs. It's not reactive; it's proactive. What you're sharing is calculated information that you as a leader listen to, and you formulate it based on your lens and your experience, what position that you want to take, and you take it in a stance where it's like, hey, this is mine and yours is accepted as well. And I will facilitate that conversation and we can disagree and we can love each other through it. There's no maliciousness, there's no malice. It's literally healthy polarity. And so my thing is that I tell everybody, if you're triggered, if you feel something, if you get, enrolled in something, that's normal. That happens. That means it landed, but you should not respond when you feel that way. You should not post when you feel that way. Instead of going to social, go to a document and type out all your thoughts and then get them out so you feel clear, you feel processed, and then you review it 24 hours later. Timer on the phone, 24 hours later, and you look at it. And if you can sit there calmly and be like, wow, I actually feel this way. This is how I want to represent it. And you know what? Like, I'm not reactive in my body. I'm not here. And you take that stance, I guarantee you that it will be effective. But if there's an ounce, and I mean an ounce of reactiveness, of leakiness, everybody will catch it. And it's like a drop of blood in the water for a great white. And it is, and it's game over. And there's
Yeah.
no recovering from it because it wasn't your truth in the first place. And the difference between a message that lands and is supportive and one that doesn't is typically the state of being in which you post it and share it. And so get grounded, get clear, and be a leader. Listen more, pause, make sure you're clear, and know when you post it. Because if you're calm and collected, you'll read it and be like, oh, no, it's missing. Like, oh, that's not really there. That's not accurate. But when you're triggered and you're in tunnel vision, and any combat person, any veteran will tell you, it happens to the best of us. We can be trained and trained and trained, and yet there are moments when we still go here and we need to be looking out here. That's why we have teams. That's why we do the things that we do. And so we can always see the entire field and what's coming down range, right? And just like they say,
Yeah.
you have to know your target and what lies beyond. Well, you have to know your words and what's coming once they're shared. And so be really clear, be grounded, and make sure that like you can give it the grandma test. Like, would I be okay if I
Yep.
posted this and somebody showed up at my grandmother's door or my kid's door or my house's door? And that's really where you want to start playing that game, because that's where things are going to get affected.
Absolutely. I love that you said that because it's so true. That's like that's the first litmus test is would your grandmother read this and not have an issue? Uh, a lot of people would fail that. And two, like I love Guy Kawasaki. I absolutely love him. He's a marketing god. He's worked with the
Yes.
great Steve Jobs. I once interviewed him a few years ago, and I'll share the video with you off camera. But I asked him about thought leaders, and he was like, "Dude, there's enough of those to everybody wants to be a thought leader, but the greats don't think about that." But so many people out there, they just post whatever and they don't bother to pay attention. But he always said, you engage 3 times with anybody on your post. You try to have some cordial belief. By the third time, if they're not having it and they're stuck on name calling, then you just kind of move along. And there's a lot of people that try to get your goat, and I don't even. Number one, I usually don't respond. That's just my preference. So if you're watching, that's what I do. Because to me, you don't own space here. You're not paying me rent here. You don't get to live here. So you can say whatever you want on Facebook because I know you're not going to come say it to my face. I already know that, so I'm going to laugh at you. Then I go look at your profile and I damn know you're not going to say anything to me. You just feel brave, and I think that's a problem that we have. Is so many businesses, and maybe it's me. Maybe I'm just a crazy business owner, but I've seen more people just despise other people's success. And I don't think that's a bad thing because I recently interviewed my own wife on the show, and her business has taken off. And I'm seeing a lot of at home driven businesses, e-com related, direct sales related, absolutely crushing it. And there's nothing wrong with telling people you're crushing it because you can come join those teams. So I just want to know. I love your thoughts on a lot
Yeah.
of things. What's your thoughts on people like? I don't know what this mentality is. This hate towards success. Yes, almost 40 million people are unemployed. Okay, that's bad. But you could fix your bad. Your bad isn't going to last forever. Your bad's going to last as long as you let it be bad. because
Mhm.
you could fix bad. There's no bad situation. Any veteran, any combat vet, anybody who's been in the crap is going to tell you your crap doesn't. I mean, okay, 2020 is like, oh, hold my beer.
Yeah.
I'm afraid of 2020 right now. I just said that out loud. 2020 is like, what?
Yeah.
You want it to get worse? Okay, I'll hook you up. I'll give you hornets, a hurricane, and raise you COVID again. Uh, and that's what it feels like. But what's your thoughts on these people that are out there? Number one, what do you say to the people who have this negative mindset that's just going around in this? It's not woe is me. It's like vengeful. It's like you're so angry at success that you're the guy who's like, I can't believe it. I hate you because you're successful.
Mhm.
You know those folks. They're out there. I see them all over. They're commenting on people's ads. Like who trolls a Facebook ad? Like, really, you have
Yeah.
nothing better to do? Like, you can
Yeah.
click a button, it goes away. Trust me, I do a lot of ads. Some reason I get targeted, and I move them on, unless they're my friends, and I'm like, oh, cool, yay, like it, move on. It's simple. But what do you say to those folks?
Yeah, so it's really, really simple. Stop lying to yourself and be honest and just say I want help.
Yeah,
And really what it is. And here's the thing that I think, and I have a lot of empathy and compassion because I used to be one of those people.
yeah,
Because when I came out of the military and I hadn't processed my PTSD and I hadn't dealt with my sexual trauma as a kid and the fact that like I grew up in a broken home and I was dealing with addictions, right? Like any single thing that came across my radar that represented happiness was a threat to my existence because it wasn't my comfort zone. And you and I both have a different level of what I would call I don't know, the ability to kind of withstand discomfort, right? Like we somehow volunteered to get put through this every day. I don't know what was wrong with us, right? But our capacity is very, very different, right? And everybody in the world has different lenses and different experiences, right? And
hmm
for me, I understand that feeling. And I love those people. And listen, I'm one of these different people. I think this is why, people love me or hate me when it comes to business. But like when I get negative comments, I'm like, if somebody really hated me, they wouldn't have commented. They would have just gone on their way. When somebody takes the time to express everything in which I did wrong or they didn't like, they're screaming for help. And it might take a month or a year or 2 years to get there. But like when I think about it, like I try to keep this lens in my brain. And so whether you're listening to this or watching this and you're one of those people that have left those comments, don't make yourself wrong for it, but own it and be like, wow, I'm super fucking angry right now. I don't want to do this anymore. Like I need help. And it's okay if it takes time to get there. And if you're one of those people that gets those comments, take it as a compliment because the way in which you are leading and the way in which you are showing up in the world has attracted that energy. And that energy is they are literally looking at you as the person who has the ability to change their story and change their pattern. But your response as a leader dictates the shift. And so when you respond back, and oh yeah, you a-hole and blah, 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 and blah, 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 you just made it right and it continues. The moment you respond back with love, acceptance, empathy, compassion, whatever it is for you, that's a kink in that armor that doesn't allow it to live anymore. And really what it's screaming and what I'm seeing is the world showing us the lack of leadership that has been in this country for so long. And now it's expressing itself in ways that most people can't control. So what do I see? I see people screaming for leadership, screaming for help, and a core human need of love and empathy and connection that needs to be met. Because I could take 100 of those people, put them in a room at a dinner table, break bread with the best meal ever, and we could be enemies online, and you could never have those conversations because what everybody's screaming for is human connection. And the thing that's created the divisiveness is the thing that we're using to support it further, which is social media and disconnection and the things that drive the wedge even further. So realize that the platform in which it's happening on is the poison that created it. And so our job is to understand that game and that these aren't free speech platforms. They're owned by other people. These are about attention and fear mongering and getting people reactive. And our job, if we're going to be here and know that that's the field, is to be open and grounded and supportive. And of course, within your level of leadership, but that's how I see it. And it's crystal clear as day. And all of us will tell you the same because we've been through it. And I'll just own the fact that I used to be one of those people because I didn't know how to say like, hey man, I don't know how to get there. I don't know how to ask you for help. And so instead, so hey, I have this idea. I'm like, oh no, that's stupid. And then, 2 months later, I stole their idea and did it myself anyways and never gave them credit. Lessons learned, been there, done that, and grown. And so I speak from both sides. And so for me, like everything I see is just being called to lead. That's it. It's everybody being called to step up a level, to listen more, to view it differently, and to not look at it like it's today, right? Like today we have to worry about like our food, our water, and our shelter. And so tomorrow we will too. But we also have to realize that the way in which we go about today and go about tomorrow is going to dictate what it feels like 90 days from now and 180 days from now. And so we all need to press that pause button and that empathy button and compassion button and look at it through the lens of like, hey, It's happening now. It's a symptom, but how do I prevent it from happening again in the future? And so that's kind of how I navigate that. And it's probably single-handedly the only reason I'm happy in life, because it really eliminates a whole lot of like negative energy sucking down the toilet and all of those things. And it keeps me in a place where I can be accountable to myself and accountable to my family. And so that's my challenge for everybody watching this, listening to this, like change the lens in which we look at it and just see it for what it is. And it's people screaming for help, screaming for leadership, and screaming for some level of safety in their life, because only hurt people can throw that stuff out there. And our job is to heal this stuff. And so that's how I see it, man.
I love it. And so I have this kind of jumps on that topic. And I think it comes when we're talking about leadership. And I love talking leadership with you. One of the big things that people talk about is like they're going back to work. They may have been furloughed. And I think one of the key things for leaders, and I'm going to add, I'll pose it to you this way. Why is being kind to your employees at during this time so critical? It's a pretty common sense question that a lot of people can't figure out because they truly, they're I mean, we're all going through our own journey through this. This is uncharted territory. There is not one of us who's lived through a pandemic. Some of us have been in combat. Some of us haven't. Some of us have childhood traumas. But we've all never been at the same hoop at the same time going through this journey. And I think it's funny that I have to ask this question, but it's true because there's some employers that are like, get your butt to work. I don't care if you don't have childcare because that's closed. It's get here. So, I mean, at this time, why is it so important for you to treat as a leader, to treat your employees kind and have that patience that you used to have that was shorter because everything was hunky dory in February of 2020? June 2020 is a completely different story. And now we add COVID, election 2020, which is a shit show all by itself. And let's dabble decades of racism in our country that people are finally standing up for. Let's just do that. And then we're like, hey, the economy's maybe opening, but it's not really because it's where some people are phase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Some people believe in it. Some people don't. Why is treating your employees so important? Like, that's like treating them kind.
Yeah. So from a business owner, I'll make it really simple. If you don't, you're not going to have a business. The end. The end. And I'm going to put it really, really simply. Would you rather have 8 hours of resentful work or 2 hours of focused, aligned, somebody feels supported and they will ride or die and bleed for you in a fighting whole work? And that's the difference. And it doesn't take much to care. It doesn't take much to hear somebody and not make their feelings wrong. And really, like one of my business partners says this, right? And we get all this all the time. And people ask him like, how do I lead more? How do I have a bigger impact? And he said, if you want to deepen your impact, deepen your practice. And that's really simply put, go in more than you go out. And that's where all the answers are. And like, listen, I'm going to be really frank. If you're being mean to your employees, you should probably look in the mirror and realize that all you're doing is saying everything you don't like about yourself. So probably start leading by example and shut your mouth. That's a place to start. And that's the best way I can say it. Because if it tags you, if it bothers you, it means you do it. And it's an opportunity for you to grow. And I say that hard because I do the same thing. I don't take it out on my employees, but I sure as crap beat myself up sometimes. But I know my filter. I'm like, oh, there I go again. There I go again. And I'm like, listen, culture is everything. Culture is what's created because you have to realize that every touch point with every customer, every vendor, everything in your company that you can't touch is done by somebody who represents you. And the relationship with you and the relationship with that company is completely predicated on how they feel, and then they deliver that feeling to those customers. And there is no way. And you look at it right now. Look at the people that are like screaming to go back to work, like companies that haven't opened and their employees are like begging, I want to come back. I want to come back. I want to come back. Right. And it's there. And I'm like, oh, somehow successfully they've navigated this and they're there. And so culture is it, because without culture, without a safe space, you don't have anything, right? You don't have nothing. It's unsafe. It's transactional, it's fear-based, and you can never get somebody's best work. And so, yeah, whether you got to open a daycare at your work, you got to let the kids sit there and have work Mondays, you got them on Zoom calls. I don't care. But I will tell you right now, somebody's child in their office or they're taking care of their kids has nothing to do with how well they do their job. But if you support them, it has everything to do with how long and how well they will do that job for you and for your company. And even when they leave that company, how they speak about you, how they recommend you, and how they bring people in. And so for me, like, lean into stoicism on this one. Marcus Aurelius said this morning when I read it. If you look at every task and everything you do like it's the last thing you're going to do on earth and it is everything that you will be remembered by, ask yourself, do I really want to be an a-hole to my employees?
I love it. Oh my goodness, I love it. So here's one for you. and I love this one, and this is the last one, and we'll close after this one. Uh, it is an interesting one because it goes back to what we started on, and I want to finish on a high note.
Yeah,
And people's audiences, to me, this is my opinion, have changed. And people don't realize it. What you start again, I'll pick on February. I don't know why I'm picking on February. I apologize, but February just seems a month I'm gonna. It's like
it's
when
a good
things are
month. I
normal in
like
my
it.
life. I
Yeah, I
was
like
in
it.
New York in February, so my brain's like I was. I remember where I was.
Like
I was.
I was keynoting stages in February. Like
Yeah,
yeah, it's interesting. It's like
yeah.
a different universe.
I see photos and I was like, I was with my baby brother. We were in Soho. It's heartbreaking because I see Soho looted, and I'm like, wait a minute. I was in Soho. I was staying at our favorite. I was doing everything we do for work, and I haven't been there. And I'm like, anyways, it's a whole different thing. But audiences have changed from this time in February to where we're at today. So my question to you is, and we can you could dive however you want to take this, but why your target audience is probably much larger than you think it is. Like the audience you had one time is completely different now because people aren't going out or they can't go out. They can't go where they went before. So why are target audiences growing, and how can businesses like go, oh crap, like I have to put my pin down because we have blinders on, right? Like, oh shit.
Totally,
Like, oh,
totally.
now it's so how what are you telling folks to be like, dude, take those blinders off. You got evergreen on your left and your right, go nuts.
Totally. Yeah, it's really really interesting and I love it. So yeah, so first like looking at the last 4 months, I think we saw around a 40+% increase just in podcast listenership, an 8 to 12x consumption on social media, right? But you have to remember that what comes with that, it isn't a consumption that is created with depth. Like they're not seeking depth. What they're seeking is something to capture their attention, to give them a level of normalcy or safety or something along those lines. And so yes, the amount of eyeballs and attention that we have in this world right now that are awake and open and scanning is greater than we'll probably ever see it in our lifetime again, ever. Like this is going to be one of those pivotal moments, and like this is what changed the internet. This is what changed digital marketing. Like this is what catapulted. There's going to be billion-dollar businesses built out of this. It's mind-blowing to me, right? But I think it's important to remember. So when somebody asks me like, hey, there's all this increased attention, how do I get it? I'm like, you have to meet them where they are. They're like, what does that mean? I'm like, you have to know who they are, which means you have to know where you are. And then you have to know where to insert yourself in that conversation to bring them into your world, right? So little marketing lesson right here. There are only 5 reasons that people share or consume on social media, and they're all going to make sense to you really quickly right now. Humor, controversy, credibility, education, and social status. There is not a whole lot of education happening right now. There is not a whole lot of credibility happening right now. There is a whole lot of controversy and social status. And then the ones that are coming in to provide some sort of comic relief or light are coming in with humor. And so if you look at it, those are the 3 places where you get to choose where you want to insert yourself in today's conversation, because this is the lens of which everybody is looking at. Social media, digital media, marketing, TV, it doesn't matter. This is it. Me, I don't like the controversy bucket, right? So for me, I'm like, how can I use humor to align them to a bigger vision, something great for them, and give them some sort of pattern interrupt? So you're going to see dark, 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 light, dark, 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 light. And the biggest key for companies right now is to pick your path, to pick your bucket, and to be dedicated and resilient to that messaging, and it can't change, because where it used to only take 2 touch points to get somebody to trust you, it's going to take 25 now, because they're going 10 to 1, negative, positive, like, oh, they're not really there, I can't trust them, skeptical lenses up. And so wherever you are in your business, you have to know your stand. You have to know what you stand for, know what you deliver, and know where you want to insert yourself into that conversation. And if you insert it, you have to stay. And so if you're like, I'm going to be here with something humorous or positive or supportive every single day, twice a day, expect to do it for 3 weeks and get nothing in return. And then on week 4, watch the scale tilt. It's about consistency. And so we used to be able to post once or post twice and like, oh, it worked or it didn't work. You're probably going to have to post 45 times for it to even have a chance, because people are going to be like, wait, I can trust them. They're consistent. Oh, it's the same message. That's authoritative. Oh, I feel safe. I like how I feel when I consume their content. I'm not consuming as much negative content. Wow. Now they're talking about my mindset. Wow, they have a product? Oh, they have a service? I got to tell my friends about this. And so what you have to do is you have to meet the humans where they are and develop a relationship in the field that they are in. And once the relationship is established, you can ask them to go on a second date and move them off the field. But it starts with you having to be willing to jump in that lion's den or jump in that shark infested water and know your message and know where you're going to put yourself and stay in there no matter what happens until people come out. And it's going to be the only way. And there's two buckets that people are in right now. I'm either not going to change, I'm not going to post anything, and then you're going to lose, or I'm going to go all out with the wrong message or not have a message, right? I'm watching this happen. Companies here, then tomorrow they're here, then the next day they're here. Well, we did it, now we don't support it. Well, you can say it, now you can't say it. No. Measure twice, post once, and then keep posting the same thing in that context. Different content, different messaging, but same message. When you read us, when you consume us, when you see it, that video is light, it's happy, it's energetic. That post is humorous, credible, positive. You got to pick it, and then you got to hold it the whole way. And I'll say this, leadership is not saying it once, it's saying it as many times as required till the last person gets it. And in the current state of the world, it's going to be said a lot because there are 330 million people that are screaming for it right now. And if you are consistent and tenacious and you do it for the right reasons, i.e., not a comment, not a like, but for consistency, so they know they can trust you, you will have a windfall that you have never imagined. But don't call me in 8 weeks and be like, I posted once a day and it didn't work. No, it might take 6 months. There's a chance it takes 12. There's a chance it takes 18. But it's the ones that have the grit and the resiliency to stick it out that are going to be the ones that succeed and change this world, quite frankly. And that's how I see it.
I love it. That was awesome. I love your 5 points, man, because they're dead on, right? You do need humor. You do see the people leading the way with humor. I mean, there is controversy. A good friend of mine, Cheryl Connor, wrote a great article in Entrepreneur talking about the Kardashian. I don't know, is it a Jenner or a Kardashian? The one that lied about being a billionaire, right? I mean,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
talk about that's not just a little lie. That is like your brand is basically tarnished. You just lied about joining a billionaire club that you clearly were nowhere near being it. It smelled fit when it happened, but again, we were in Shangri-La in January and February. We were like,
Yeah.
oh, just everything's, oh, she's a billionaire. That's fine because I'm doing good. Business is great. So I don't care. Good for them. Yay, she's young. Now it's like, oh, really? You lied. Ah, we're not supporting your business. And I think we're
Totally.
seeing that more. So it's good that you bring it up. I think we're seeing it more with comedy. Trevor Noah is one of my favorites on Comedy Central because he kind of blends the two, where you do get some of this. It's not negative what's coming to you. It's hard, driven, in your face, good. It's humor. It's fun to be light. I mean, and to touch on your podcast point, I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
agree with you more. This very show and the heart of this pandemic. And it's turned into something I never honestly, man to man, I never thought it would turn into this. And it's
Mm-hmm.
addictive. People want it. And you have to mix it up. And we could make the mistake of looking for the likes and the views and trying to understand it. But that's not what this is about. It's about the messages that come in and people seeing it and being consistent. Do you know that we've posted 104 videos
In like
already?
3 months.
Yeah, April
Less.
15th is
Yeah.
when. Yeah, April
Yeah.
15th is the
2
first
months.
episode ever. Yeah, 105. So don't tell me about consistency. It's addictive and it's good and it's building and it's not overnight. And I think that's something that we all are learning together. Is this adage of overnight success? And I'm not calling them out or picking on any of these big names, the Cardones and Garys, all these amazing people, the Lewises and the amazing guys. That's great that they have success, but you can't think. Don't believe for a minute Ed Milet was just like, I'm Ed Milet. Lewis Howes shares his failures openly on his Insta, which I love because he's like, dude, look at me. I'm a dweeb 4 years ago. I'm
Yep.
some goofy dude with a busted wrist in Rome, scrounging around, and now
Mm-hmm.
look at him. So I think that's one thing. Like your takeaways, and I always love it, is it kind of inspires my brain to go, you can't go to sleep at night and be happy with who you are and know
Yeah.
your business. If you're doing it right, your business will be successful. There's no bones about it. And you don't have to be prior service to figure this out. This is just be a good human being. Be thankful that every morning you wake up, you get a fresh 24 on the clock. It's
Yep.
what you do with every minute of those 24 on the clock you get that you have a chance to make a difference. The end result, 8, 12. Like somebody said, I'm a 5-year success. That's what I always tell people when it comes to my business. And I only own one. My wife owns three. You own how many again? What are
9.
you at? Nine. You own nine, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We have this drive, and it's not overnight. You're not like, I have it. I mean, I, we've
Yeah.
run the zeros out on our bank accounts before. We all know. If you're an
My
entrepreneur, you've done
favorite
that.
part is I was an 8-year millionaire, and then I was a 3-month bankrupt again, and then back to the top again. And
Okay.
that's a part of it. And it's funny, the
Yeah.
analogy I give, like you and I both know, if you stare at the target, you miss, right? You have to look at the instruments, and you have to look at the controls and the measurements. It's consistency, it's messaging, it's clarity, continued on. And I look at it, right? Name me one wonder of the world, and name me one that was created in less than, I don't know, a week or a month, or I don't know. Some of them that have been on that list took 110 years to create, right? Like it's about iterating over and over. And so if you're aligned, the right message, the right path, you're consistent, there's a guaranteed path for success. I can't tell you what it's going to look like. I don't know if it's going to hockey stick. I don't know if it's going to grow, but I know you don't have a chance to win the game if you don't play it that way.
Yep.
And the best analogy for the people that aren't military and everything else, think about if Apple only lets you in the store if you pre-committed to paying. Nope, you can't come in unless you pay. You can't come in unless you pay. 99% of the traffic in that store every day is just people playing and playing and playing and playing and touching. They have the same message, same quality over. And that's how you end up owning 97% of the market share with only 3% of the market.
Yep. Think about that. That's kind of amazing when you think of that. And then you look at overnight success doesn't happen. I can't think of one amazing CEO of a company, founder of a company that I look up to, like Mark Benioff, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk. None of them are overnight successes. I've talked to Mark Benioff. He tells of the story in his garage with wires everywhere and like three people, and the times that they had to go borrow money to keep their business alive, like taking $6,500 and turning it into something and eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and people working for free. And it amazes me still to this very day. I hear people, well, how fast can I get? I mean, it's funny because I hear it especially with my wife's business. Here she has direct sales. And she wasn't an overnight success, and nor does she do it. But she sets people up like, here, this is what I wasn't given. Here's my walk you through. If you do this, this, and this, like you do. Like people go to your website. You have it all there. It's not like you're like, dude, give me 10K. You're willing to give what you know, what you share with us. You put it out there for free. And I know people who use it, and they tell me all the time, dude, thank you for introducing me to George. I never knew existed. I was paying some make-believe coach that was on Facebook, thousands of dollars. And I trusted him because he had this video where he's walking and leaning on a Lambo or something. And like, George is like, dude, he wears a hat backwards. Looks like he's always landing an aircraft. And, he talks about pink shoes and he puts his shit out for free and it works. I'm
Yep.
like, what do you want it to do? Just because it doesn't have a big fuzzy bow on it doesn't mean it doesn't work. You got to find the right people, the people that you trust, and you work with them. And that's how
Yep.
I look at you and the people we put on this show. We're not going to mislead you, but you have to make your own decision. I
Totally.
can't. Not everybody likes Toyota Tacomas. I happen to love them, but people like Jeeps. Does it mean I can't associate with them? No, it's your preference. You got to figure out who you learn from, who you want to find out with, and where you want to spend your money. Spend it wisely because you don't know when it goes away. And you heard from George, became a myth at the same time you go bankrupt. And I can't tell you how many times since we built this business called Lifelit Media that we've gone from way up here where we're like, yes, to holy crap, we have that little in the bank. Like, where's the next one coming from? And it hasn't been for a while, thank God. But it's because of process, fail,
Mhm.
fail, and going, I'm not going to be an overnight success. And you want it, right? You get, I remember it, and I'll tell the story, then we'll finish. But dude, I'm sure you have one too. But like, we got this, when we first started, we got this huge client, paid us the most money I've ever made. Like here you go, just big check, just boop, hit my bank account. And I was like, yes, we made it. Well, once you start making that kind of money and your budget goes up to here, and you got to kind of make more than that. And as you make more, and people don't tell you that. They don't tell you this when you're building a business. Like if you're good, okay, you're good, but you got to keep doing it. And you
Yeah.
rest on your laurels. And I did that. And I know, and you suffer. Never done it again. And we've crashed, but you rebuild. It's all how you rebuild. So you're right. I love your points today because it's true. And we all have to remember we're all shooting on the same bucket. And stop saying things are normal. They're never going to be back to normal. It's not a new normal. We're all learning. We're taking the first steps on the moon again. We're with Neil.
Mm.
We're walking step by step together, and it's all how you do it. You could be the jackass in the back going, this sucks. That's right, it does. It does. It's like on a hike. If you're in the Corps, you know what I'm talking about. Go on a
Yeah.
25-mile hike with us. It sucks. It's going to end sometime, and you just know it. And so you just keep doing it, and you feel blessed that you wake up, you get another 24 on the clock. If you
Hmm.
don't like that, I don't know what to tell you. Get your ass back in bed, wake up, try again. I don't know what to tell you, but those are the only options you have. You either
Yeah.
move forward or you sit there and bitch and complain. But when you sit there and bitch and complain, George has told us millions of times, that doesn't solve anything. You're going to get passed by and you're going to be the guy standing there going, you just look like you have a tinfoil hat on and you're a fool. So, anyway,
Whatever you do, I just recommend you own it. If you're gonna sit
yeah,
there and complain, don't complain and be like, God, you
own
know
that
what?
shit.
Today, I just feel like being a martyr. Done. And you know what happens tomorrow? I guarantee you, your life looks different because
Yeah.
it's that level of integrity with self that changes it. It does it every single time. And I'm gonna say this about this, and you nailed it, Eric. And it's what I'll close with.
Mhm.
You don't want to be an overnight success because you won't have the capacity and tools to maintain it. And it hurts 10 times worse to lose multiple millions than it does to lose $10,000 to learn the lesson required to let the licks in the game and practice. And I'll use a sports analogy because I'm not a sports guy. It's the one I have because I'm from Boston. Tom Brady did not come back from a 30-point deficit in a minute and 30 seconds that day because that day he decided to be a quarterback. That happened because 19 years of work when everybody else was in the offseason and he was practicing and he's dieted and he's 45 years old and in better shape than kids that come in 21, not because of he decided today, but because he decided 23 years ago that he'd get drafted number 156 and end up being the greatest quarterback of all time. And he was going to put in the licks and learn 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 until he got to that point. And that's why he was able to come back. And that's the lessons that we have. It's patience. It's the game. It's iterative and we grow. And I'm telling you right now, if you haven't learned this yet as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, don't sit here and bitch and complain about the uncertainty when you became an entrepreneur because you love the uncertainty. We asked for this. It was given to us. And so we can't complain that it came at a different time that we wanted or not what it looked like. Welcome to the path to success. Fall in love with the process. And I'm not trying to be a broken record here. Fall in love with it because if you look at it like that, what worked, what didn't work, what do I do differently? What worked, what didn't work, what do I do differently? Just like when you cook a reel and it doesn't come out good, or you drive down a road and you don't want to drive down it again. We don't get in our car and we're like, oh, I hit traffic today. I'm never driving again. No. We just take a right. Like, seriously, like we just take a right and then we come back around. And it's the best way to think about this. So be in and be all the way in and be like non-negotiable. It's not about the target. It's about the game. I'm going to adjust. I'm going to pivot. I'm going to go. I'm going to own it. And I'm going to put in as many licks as I can for as long as I can. And I'm going to practice the things that build my success. I'm going to work on myself, my mindset, my physical body, my emotional body, my relationships, so that the thing that I'm doing actually has a purpose and it's moving everything forward. That's what I'm going to end with today.
Boom, mic drop. We just ended just like that. Ladies and gentlemen, my good friend, and yeah, man, is a guru to me. George Bryant, brother, thank you for joining us again. It's great to have you back.
I missed it. I'm back.
Dude, I missed it. Well, we'll do it every 2 weeks. That way we can
Let's
both
do it.
work. We got a lot of things to do, but we need you every 2 weeks to fill that vibe. I had a lot of people message us, just so you know, you do have a good little following here. They do listen. They do pick up their pins. Actually, producer Chris on our show wanted me to send you a message that he's been following everything since he met you. He's been following your path, and it's helped him grow his business. So
I love it. Thank you, Chris.
that's huge. So I mean, keep doing what you're doing, brother. Again, George Bryant, ladies and gentlemen, he'll be joining us every 2 weeks on our show on Monday, of course. So check his tips. And remember, if you want to learn how to connect with George, just simply scroll down on our YouTube. You'll see the link right there. Click it. You can connect to George. All of his material is free. Amazing that George provides that. Dude, I mean, look at him. He just smiles. They're like, yep, that's what I do. So don't pay a coach thousands of dollars. You want to give your money to somebody, give it to George. I'm sure he'll find a way to use it. If you want to, don't trust anybody, go to this guy. Trust me. He's the guy I use. You should do it too. Wow, I should not cough on camera like that. That's funny. Anyways, hold
Just
on.
getting all choked up over here. I love it.
I am. Hold on. We're going to cut this part. Okay, let me finish. But everybody, George Bryant, make sure you go follow him. You'll see him again in 2 weeks. George, I want to thank you for coming on, man. It's always great to have you on the show. Learn new things, go back and forth. We really did it today. Boy, we went really long, too. I think it's the longest interview we've done with you. So it's been awesome, my friend. We'll see you real soon. Have yourself a great, great rest of your week.
Thanks for having me. Talk to you soon,
Thanks.
guys.
Oh, George Bryant. I missed having his business savvy on the show the last few weeks, so it's been great to have George back today. So remember, if you want to find out more information on George Bryant and how to work with him and get his free awesome materials, simply just scroll down and find the link wherever you're watching this. It'll be right there. Or you can go to our YouTube channel, which you should have already smashed the subscribe button, liked it, shared it, and get the notification when we go on. You can always find it there or on our website at tothepointtv.com. Make sure you do that because we really appreciate you doing that. We have a great show for you this week, so make sure you're tuning in. As always, share, bring a friend, bring a sack lunch because we do air at lunchtime, so make sure you do that, or grab a cup of coffee if you're on the West Coast. Don't want to miss our shows. As always, we want to thank you for tuning in. I'm Eric Mitchell. Be safe, be smart, be strong, and God bless America.
Whether tragic or it's happy, Eric will cover whatever's happening. Whether it be your gymnast, toe tapping, talking about nearly any athlete, not taking a back seat. You're never gonna get it past T. Everybody running from it, it's a stampede. But he's on it like this man who took that knee. Mr. Mitchell's way too crafty. Get to the point.